One of the big stories in Davos 2022 has been the India story. Joining us now, Aditya Thackeray. He's over here. He's leading the Maharashtra delegation. Maharashtra has a large presence over here. Sustainable development has been one of your core mantras for a very long period of time. How is that something you're looking at over here, Aditya?
I think one of the best parts is if you look at the website also, and one of the biggest verticals, a lot of presence here is about climate action. A lot of talk here is about climate action. You've got chief sustainability officers from almost every corporate house, trying to interact with different policymakers, corporates, interacting with everyone here.
Yeah.
That is a huge gain for the world, because at Davos what really happens is you have climate conferences around the world, like we were at COP26.
Yes.
That is where the policy intent is being put to paper.
Right.
And here is where the guys who can actually make it or translate it into action are. So everyone comes together.
Now, you have a big vision about a green Maharashtra, about a green Mumbai. How is that something you are ideating on over here? How are you going to translate that into real substantive change on the ground?
I think about green, and if we talk about green growth, if we talk about sustainability or climate action, just apart from the environment aspect, because that is something we've been already working on. There's a lot of things happening on ground, right from renewable energy to building forests or e-vehicles. What is very crucial for us as a country is this green growth is not just about environment. It's opening up a huge possibility for us for creation of jobs, revenue streams for the government. That is very important for India. I think we shouldn't lose out on that moment.
Yeah. You're talking about e-vehicles. Now, you have a policy as well to encourage e-vehicles in Maharashtra. Could you tell us a little bit about this roadmap?
So the e-vehicle policy is, of course, extremely dynamic. We've been sitting with all the stakeholders every 2 months, trying to update the policy, run ahead of everyone else. We're hoping other states also run shoulder to shoulder, because this is something for all of us to gain out of.
Right.
But essentially, we're looking at e-vehicles right from battery manufacturing to OEMs to the supply chains, and of course the consumers. There's incentives for everyone. We've already got a couple of bus companies coming in. We've got a couple of battery makers coming in, because they realize the scale at which Maharashtra can actually become a huge consumer. The city of Mumbai, by 2026 we want 10,000 electric buses running on our street. Pune is another few thousand. Nasik, Nagpur, Sambhajinagar. More so, if you look at the state, the MSRTC, the state transport, is looking at 20,000 electric buses over the next 3 or 4 years. Now that is not just helping us in terms of environment, but huge savings in terms of our cost, daily costs. And it's working out fine in terms of economic and environment sustainability for us.
In terms of the India story, there are lots of headwinds because of the international environment. Economic growth it has been impacted because of inflationary pressures, the Ukraine war, fuel prices all over the place. Is the India story in Davos half empty or half full?
I think whatever way you see it, there is half of it always there. And
a very diplomatic way of putting it.
Absolutely, and what you make of that half is very important. All of us are here to make the best of that.
Right.
I think what is also very beautiful is if you see our pavilions. The India Pavilion. Apart from that, we've almost had 6 or 7 states coming in from India, and putting the best foot forward.
Right.
Now there's a healthy competition between all of us. We're trying to see maximum investment coming into our own states.
Right.
For example, yesterday we've signed MOUs worth 30,000 crores.
Wow.
Having said that, wherever the investment goes across India, whichever states that have come here, it's finally coming to India.
Right.
And that is where, as regional governments or subnational governments, we can create prosperity for our country. Because say a prosperous Maharashtra is prosperous India, prosperous Andhra or Telangana is a prosperous India.
Right.
We've been interacting here, the political rivalries, the interstate healthy competition is all back at home.
Right.
Here all of us have been interacting with each other, going into each other's pavilion, meeting up, advising each other on who to meet, and pushing India ahead.
A couple of important questions. Firstly, there is a presidential election which is going to take place in our own country. Is the Shiv Sena going to be working with the opposition towards a joint candidate?
I think that will be when we go back home, we'll speak about that.
Have you actually been
Here it's
discussing
about
that?
India.
No, but that's also about India.
No, here currently all our discussions even with the Chief Minister have been about, getting his clearances on the investment pitches we're making to the investors. We're due for signing some more MOUs. We're speaking at the Congress, pitching India, pitching our state.
Right.
I think that's the most beautiful part.
So one last question over here. In terms of international environment, the international investor climate and India is concerned, there are concerns which have been raised in the West about polarization, about all sorts of bills having recently been passed, about communities having been marginalized. Is that something which affects the India story?
It's again how you see it, but for us, when we put our best foot forward, again, if you look at the infrastructure economy that we have, the ecosystem of infrastructure, especially in Maharashtra, law and order, peace and stability, and the business environment, the ancillaries that are present, it actually makes a good setting for a lot of industries to come to Maharashtra. We've had 24 companies from 6 different countries yesterday come to Maharashtra and sign MOUs, a couple of more today. So there is, a good sense of, attraction towards the state of Maharashtra.
So again, a very diplomatic answer. Do you believe that polarization and some of those issues might affect international investor sentiment as far as India is concerned?
Look, even if, there are any opinions out there, any opinions that we might have, I think today when we're speaking as Indians out here, I'll just keep it to the India story, and it's up to all of us as young Indians to make that story back home better. That's in our hands, democratically and otherwise, politically. But when we come here, all of us are for, we're fighting for the same. All of us together.
Right. Aditya, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. You're a young leader with a great dynamic future ahead of you, and I think what you're doing over here, bringing in investment possibly into Maharashtra, is something that will do very well. Thanks very much indeed for being with us. There you have it, Aditya Thackeray speaking to us about what he sees the promise in Davos to be, about bringing in investment into the state of Maharashtra, what some of the challenges are ahead, but how it's India first over here.